The most commonly asked question that I continue to receive is, unsurprisingly to me, and probably to you, the question on twin flames. Why aren't twin flames in union? And what can we do about it? Why do we need this painful separation, and how can we put an end to it? Many people are fantasizing about the twin flame relationship and still perceiving it as this kind of a grandiose love affair, the ultimate love story that they want to enliven. And so many are trying to manifest their twin flame, or they're trying to understand how they can get into union in order to live out this idealistic view of what romance should look and feel like, based on their own subjective opinion of what that twin flame relationship is for. However, that's where we need to really back up and start to analyze this relationship from a higher dimensional perspective, because only then can we really start to understand the nuances of why we're experiencing this dynamic and all of the different complexities that come because of it. So in my view, here are the top 5 reasons why twin flames are not able to stay in union, and ultimately what we can do about it. Number 1, you cannot birth divine union while continuing to worship your wounds. Meaning your twin flame doesn't come into your life to somehow magically heal you or to distract you from the inner work that must be done in order for you to achieve self-completion. Ultimately, this journey is really the hero's journey. It's a grandiose archetypal developmental pathway in which you identify with your twin flame through the mirror of consciousness that they are providing. Initially, this story can feel like one that is all rainbows and unicorns. It could feel like you get to escape all of the difficulties of the 3D reality when you meet this person that understands you at a level that perhaps nobody else ever understood you in the past. However, the point is not to avoid looking within and actually understanding all those aspects that need to be refined and developed. Everywhere where you have been neglecting to love yourself, to pay attention to aspects of separation, duality, and self-rejection that live deep within you. All fragmentation within the psyche that creates a reality of inauthenticity, egocentrism, and self-pity. If you're perceiving this relationship as a platform for escapism, in the way that perhaps you've been used to treating relationships, where somebody's either your savior or somebody is a convenient escape mechanism to move you away from being in touch with the true inner reality and those feelings that you're experiencing deep down, then you're going to be disappointed when you meet your twin flame. Because that honeymoon period always lasts for a certain period of time before both counterparts are initiated into the next phase of deep, soulful integration. And what that can feel like is a place where all of those wounds come to light, where the twin flame is able to magnify all of those internal inadequacies, all resistance, all aspects of the self that have been in hiding, but that now must be exposed, because the twin flame's role is to allow for total integration. They represent the opposite aspects of the self. So if there's anything that you don't like about you, or that you are not used to facing internally, you will be confronted by all those aspects literally in your mirror reflection. And what can happen is, if one or the other partner is not able to handle the intensity of this mirroring dynamic, this relationship will start to feel very emotionally volatile. It'll feel like it's easier to completely drop the relationship than to start integrating those aspects that are coming to light. So essentially, this is a call to action. If you have been faced with this divine mirror providing you the most truthful feedback about your true self and where you've been keeping yourself from it, then it's important to understand the gift that this dynamic is actually presenting you, and to understand that everywhere where you are triggered is actually where you are being given the most meaningful feedback about where your soul's true purpose has yet to be uncovered. You're now faced with a choice. Are you going to bring the burdens of your past into this timeline where your twin flame is trying to allow you to experience deeper exposure, deeper self-awareness, and deeper clarity about the cosmic mission that you share with your counterpart? Or are you going to choose to run away from yourself and the mirror that they're providing? This is one of the most important questions that you can answer for yourself in order to understand whether or not you're actually able to handle the intensity and truthfulness that the twin flame journey provides. Reason number 2. The twin flame journey is a sacred initiation, not a fairy tale. It may feel like a fairy tale, and certainly there are beautiful elements of this relationship, but if you want the easiest relationship possible, think about a soulmate, or think about somebody that isn't going to challenge you as deeply as a twin flame counterpart. But the other side of the coin is that the twin flame also provides you the deepest opportunity to experience bliss. They provide you the portal into the deepest kind of self-acknowledgement, one where you get to experience the reflection of your soul in their eyes and in their energetic field, because what they perceive in you is an aspect of them, and their piercing gaze, beyond just the visual component and the physical reality, is an ability to penetrate into the energetic underpinnings of the self, beyond the programs, beyond the illusions, the masks, the filters, and all of the traumatic aspects that you might still be identifying with. Your twin flame sees right through all of that. And so if you can face all of those internal aspects that you have actually been guarding from the world, when your twin flame offers you that initiation, then you can allow yourself to be initiated into even deeper stages of self-love and inner union. Ultimately, this initiation is not one of romantic coexistence. It's not about taking two separate beings and trying to work together to achieve a union of complementary parts at the physical level. This union can only occur when both counterparts are committed to merging with themselves at the deepest of all levels. That means that you can no longer refer to this relationship as something that you're trying to change, externally speaking. You can't try to change this relationship by chasing the other person or trying to get them to validate you or to see you in a particular way. If you're used to, for instance, using romance as an opportunity to create a more inflated, positive sense of yourself. If you typically perceive partnership as an opportunity to boost your self-esteem, to feel safe and secure and validated by the other, then your twin flame is unfortunately going to bring you the red pill, initiating you into a reality in which you need to learn to validate yourself. Because what they love in you is a fractal of Source and the Divine One. And you must learn to love yourself to the same degree if you want a chance at being with your twin flame. When you are dealing with a partner that is not able to fully understand him or herself, then the choice is up to you. Will you continue to tolerate the acceptance of that energetic injustice, playing the role of somebody that is filling in the inner void of the other by creating a codependent relationship, or do you realize that that is not the purpose of a twin flame relationship whatsoever? The twin flame journey commences already with a much deeper knowing that we are here to understand how we can get to the highest point in our own consciousness developmental process, which means that if you're bringing any kind of disillusionment or distortion into this relationship, you ultimately are going to pay the price. Your twin flame is going to reveal to you exactly how it is that you are still maintaining that disillusionment, how you are lying to yourself, or how you are preventing both counterparts, you and the other, from achieving these higher states of consciousness together. This is a journey of conscious evolution, and so if there's anything held up in the mental, physical, emotional fields of either counterpart, that prevents the oneness experience from shaping up and from driving the conscious vehicle of expansion into the shared future. So ultimately, we can't look at this twin flame story as simply one that we romanticize or glamorize in any way. This is a painful path because in every twin flame story, one counterpart is not going to be able to handle the frequency of the other when those truths start to emerge. There's always a recalibration stage where one needs to learn to integrate that bold and cutting reflection that the other counterpart is providing, meanwhile not treating that as rejection or as conditional love at all. Once there is that piercing truth that emerges, allowing them to learn how to love themselves, they must learn to see that this is a higher form of love that has been given to them, a love that is not built on simply validating the ego and allowing for it to be consoled into complacency. True love has to do with choosing to stand up for the highest value system and choosing to do what's right, not just at the level of one's ego, but at the level of their soul. And so we need to be aligned as twin flames with our own higher selves to even stand a chance at experiencing divine union. Otherwise, those lessons are going to burn us and prevent us from experiencing this beautiful unity with our divine counterpart. The third reason why I believe most twin flames are not able to get into union is because of this view that the runner and the chaser dynamic never ends. There is this fixation on the polarized dynamic between twin flames that creates this duality between them, this paradoxical schism, when in reality, the counterparts are reflections of the same soul signature. That's the reason why they're twin flames after all. So why then would we see ourselves in this extremely contradictory way where one is playing the role of the runner, another's playing the role of the chaser? Sometimes they swap, sometimes they play the same role for a certain period of time, but ultimately, that duality continues to pervade. The reality is, we're not runners or chasers. We're each creators. We are each sovereign beings. We are all fractals of source consciousness. We are all, as twin flames, whether or not you actually believe that you are in such a relationship, fractals of the cosmic one. And on a certain subtle level, all of us are twin flames in the same soul family. Which means that the reason why we're not able to sometimes merge with that idea of oneness is because our egos continue to tag ourselves as one or the other, the labels. One might be the victim and one might be the abuser if they're still experiencing certain toxic tendencies within themselves. If one is more able to experience unconditional love, they might be seen as the chaser because they're vehemently choosing to defend these values of true love that they believe in and know how to embody. Meanwhile, the other counterpart might have their hesitation because perhaps they didn't learn what it means to give and receive love from an early age, in this lifetime or perhaps even on their soul's journey. If that's the case, we need to instead see that we are all catching up to speed, learning these essential conscious rules of how to become a conscious agent of loving energetic interchange, how to support a reality of truthful integration, how to be open-hearted, open-minded, how to receive new energetic frequencies and intentions from other people, meanwhile supporting our own sovereignty. This is a very important lesson to understand, because in the twin flame path, we can often be caught up by different illusions of what it is that we're experiencing based on people's projections or even the projections of our counterpart. If you ever feel along this pathway that your deepest sense of knowing ends up being manipulated or skewed by the other, and you choose to follow in that tendency of actually manipulating yourself into subservience, you are losing a trace of that divine authority. You're choosing to displace your sovereignty with this energy of victim consciousness. If either twin is still hiding behind a wall that is preventing them from being truly vulnerable, expressive, and deeply connected to their heart center and also that divine feminine energetic core of their being, then they're going to end up rejecting the other, discrediting their feelings and putting them down because that's really just a reflection of what they're still doing to themselves. And so we have to come to see that this relationship is going to show us exactly how we're still treating those internal polarities within our own fields. If there's something that you want to blame on the other person, or you think that they're doing completely randomly, think again. Everything that's being experienced is in some way showing you where you need to level up internally. If they're not able to embody that kind of frequency of love that you find yourself in, then allow yourself to simply let go of that relationship, because this relationship is not meant to create suffering. Every time we justify suffering in the context of a twin flame relationship, we're justifying this energetic imbalance, which is really just exposing certain lessons that we need to accept and learn to level up internally. You are going to be guided in this relationship, not necessarily by your physical mind or by what the counterpart is able to reflect. What you need to feel into is the energetic truth of what is being experienced. If you know that something needs to be shifted energetically, trust the process. Trust that your own higher self will be guiding you. And what's very fascinating is you might even be able to communicate with the higher self of your twin flame. They know, and they wouldn't want you to be experiencing suffering as well. Very often, the deviation from alignment with our own higher selves is what creates this schism, because ultimately, that is exactly what is required for union. We need to be able to assume oneness with our own higher dimensional aspect of self and allow our ego to become more malleable, more fluid. I want you to ask yourself this. Do you feel like you are in union with your own higher self? If the answer to that feels confusing to you, or if it's a hard no, then that's also going to be the same answer about whether or not you can be in union with your twin flame at this stage in your evolutionary journey. If you feel like that relationship with your higher self is very elusive, it's because you're still experiencing your reality through the lens of this physical avatar and all of its programming and all of its physical makeup. If you feel that that relationship with your twin flame is more important than your relationship with your higher self, you likewise are going to feel disappointed at some point, because it isn't. Your relationship with your higher self is the entanglement that needs to be refined in order for you to understand where truth and the embodiment of more values of love, authenticity, deep connection, and soulful knowing are also going to bring in clarity in your twin flame journey. Once you can connect with your own higher self, things just begin to make more sense. You stop asking all these questions about why you're in separation or why certain things are happening, the way that they're unfolding in the physical plane, because the physical reality is simply a shadow of what we're experiencing on the higher dimensional plane. We can think of the physical plane as the evidence for what is being experienced on the energetic and psychosomatic level of our being. Once you can see the connection between yourself and all of these things that are happening in your reality, aside from even this twin flame relationship, you can gain this power of creation internally and recognize that the one thing that is within your control is how you sculpt your inner world to reflect either more or less coherence and harmonic energetic interchange in your reality beyond you. Reason number 4 will probably seem a lot more self-explanatory now that we've unpacked the aforementioned reasons. And this one is that twin flame union collapses when one or more counterparts chooses to resist evolution. Because it's not enough to simply desire to evolve. Evolution can be glamorized just as much as that romanticized twin flame relationship. If you think evolution is going to be this smooth and carefree journey, then prepare to experience some cathartic moments of revelation along the way. What it can feel like experiencing a twin flame journey is like layer after layer of the onion of your own self is going to be stripped away due to not only the physical dynamic, but the revelations that you experience internally because of it. If you think that you can control the way that the energy pans out in your physical experience, then you're also going to feel a complete lack of control. You're going to feel like the rug is pulled up from under your feet if you try to approach this relationship in a conventional format. Twin flames are not meant to meet and stay the same. You're not meant to project a certain fantasy reality onto this twin flame partner and expect that it's going to go exactly as you think it's going to. For this reason, the rules of manifestation basically do not apply to this relationship. As in, if you think that you can simply change the other person by imagining them to be different or by desiring for certain changes to culminate through your thoughtful intentions, then you're going to feel like, for some reason, those mental principles do not apply to this relationship. And this can come as a shock to some people, especially who are very equipped mental manifestors. If you are somebody who's used to getting what they want in life through the mentalized strategy, meaning you know that when you intend something and you believe in it and you really work hard to get it, you're going to be successful and victorious, then you're going to feel confused about why those same principles don't apply to a twin flame relationship. What happens if you try to push any changes into this relationship is you experience the boomerang effect. Everything that you try to push will eventually fly right back into your field. And that's because any kind of attempt to create coercively or manipulatively this change will end up creating a backlash, because energetically, you are simply pushing against yourself. Think of it this way. If you're pushing, then you're really pulling away from yourself and the need to create internal alignment that allows for the recalibration of the natural energetic balance in your field. That means if you're trying to get somebody to change, to show up and meet your needs, you're going to be shown that really you need to meet your own needs. If, on the other hand, you're used to people validating you when you give them love, you're going to experience actually that they're going to polarize and push away from you, because they're actually teaching you that you need to choose yourself in this relationship. Unless you can learn to truly love yourself, they can't connect with the love inside of you, because the love in this context is transcendental. This connection is designed to dismantle illusions, to break patterns, and to literally force transformation. So if you try to stay on guard and to not allow the transformation to ensue, you're going to feel the most painful experience of having divine love taken away from you in a way where when you thought you could control it, you were proven wrong. Because all those tactics of egoic control are going to be proven obsolete. You're going to realize that if you're trying to uphold the past you in this relationship, you're going to lose it altogether. What's being called to attention is everywhere where you're bringing this energy from your past, including any kind of toxic expectations about partnership or the way that love needs to look and feel in a conditional manner, or even how you're choosing to approach your day-to-day reality in terms of your presence, in terms of your devotion to your spiritual self and to a higher level cause. If you don't choose to create a new continuum of balance wherein the values, the mission, and all aspects of the energetic experience are shared between the counterparts, it isn't going to work. Because the interesting thing is that at the highest level, both twin flame counterparts desire exactly the same thing. If one or the other is hiding from it or running from it, it's because they're still not able to surrender to that frequency of true love. And if that's the case, then the counterpart that's more openly bringing it to the table needs to surrender. And they actually need to learn the lesson of what it means to let go and not push love, not try to prove themselves by doing more to experience it, but simply to release and to allow for love at a distance where healing can actually emerge. Twin flames are going to experience period after period of separation until they finally wake up to their own self-inflicted illusions and conditional programs and choose to drop all of that toxicity altogether, realizing that sometimes you need to choose the path of radical transformation if you want to experience the most bliss and most ease going forward. Know this: if you resist evolution, you resist union itself. If you resist looking within yourself and exposing all of the ways in which you are false to yourself, you are going to experience the mirroring of that unstable relationship externally. What you're being shown is that you can't procrastinate anymore on achieving self-union. If you are experiencing a twin flame relationship, you are already a very evolved soul that is being offered the opportunity to get to the next level, which involves leaving a lot behind that maybe you didn't even think needed to be refined in your life. And when you can do that, you will see how the tables quickly turn to move this energy. And sometimes you might not even desire the twin flame relationship altogether. If you're so involved in your own evolution, you might start to recognize that there are more important things in life than even trying to change the counterpart, because the evolutionary cycle can evolve at a different pace for both. And sometimes total letting go involves not even knowing if union will be achieved, but simply trusting the process, giving yourself to divine timing, and allowing your higher self to orchestrate the journey, which entails true divine love extended for both yourself and the other. And finally, reason number 5. If it's keeping you small, it isn't your twin flame. It's your lesson. Know that love is meant to be expansive, because the energy of love is literally the experience of integration. It's about recombination. It's about revitalizing your beingness by understanding that the more that you include within your field when it comes to feelings, experiences, perspectives, and more dimensions of the living conscious experience, the more harmonizing you can experience your own energy field and the reality of coexistence with everything else in existence. Then you will realize also that if love feels binding, possessive, attached, restrictive, fearful, or painful, there are lessons that still need to be integrated in the context of the twin flame relationship. And that is something that must be attained individually before the love begins to feel more fluid and more harmonized in the context of twin flame union. Twin flames are not meant for codependency. They're not meant for this kind of transactional relationship arrangement, which a lot of people experience, sadly, these days. Twin flames simply can't afford to, energetically, experience a lackluster relationship because the frequency of the mismatch becomes so debilitating that the nervous system of either counterpart cannot even function normally when that imbalance is present. The energy becomes so cathartic that it forces one or the other into a mode of fleeing from the relationship. Separation can happen so quickly that you can't even do anything about it. Because what you're meant to do is not fix the relationship, you're meant to fix yourself. And you're meant to step into your power and realize that you can't just create power in the relationship. You can't get the other to make you feel powerful. You can't use the other to create a more grandiose state within yourself. Anywhere where you're still used to treating other people potentially as extensions of your field will be shown to you as the most disadvantageous coping mechanism that prevents you from true soulful evolution. The healthiest thing that can happen in the context of healing twin flame dysfunction is actually letting go of relationships altogether, taking some time to simply experience aloneness, the solitary state of being, to be in the silence, to be deep within the crevices of the self, to feel all those emotions, to feel even the pain and the sadness and the heartache and the longing, and to experience everything else that might also reflect past realities, past timelines, past dynamics with family, with friends, with past lovers, with anybody that could have brought a tainted relationship with love into your life. If you choose not to look at all those people that have damaged your relationship with love itself, then you're going to project all of that inadequacy onto your twin flame and actually think it's their fault that they're not loving you adequately. But what needs to come through is a deeper self-realization that twin flame love is like this pure, delicate snowflake. In order to experience it, you need to create the perfect environment, meaning you need to know how to treat it. You need to know how to be experiencing the right energetic field internally to not threaten the beauty and integrity of that delicate snowflake. If you come at it with too much coldness or too much aggressiveness, trying to possess the snowflake, it's going to melt. Likewise, if you try to use it or corrupt it in any way or prevent it from simply taking on a life of its own, then it's likewise going to escape you. For twin flames to unite, they need to experience a marriage with Source. They need to decide to accept these spiritual universal vows internally and to not pursue them out of fear, not being afraid that if they don't remain faithful or loyal, like in the context of a 3D marital relationship, then there's going to be some consequence. This is not a relationship built on punishment or on any kind of falsity that you may concoct internally and prevent yourself from expressing externally. What ultimately gets expressed is the truth of what you're experiencing deep down, because God is always the observer. That's simply the karmic mirror of consciousness that's revealing whether or not you're actually maintaining integrity with that spiritual vow that you have made to your own higher self and to theirs. What that really comes down to is, how honest are you going to be with the act of love, and are you going to choose love fully? You can't choose love partially. That is simply a corruption of the purpose of this kind of divine relationship. Just because you think that you're evolved or that you're spiritually awakened doesn't necessarily mean that you've actually done the inner work that's necessary to maintain the delicate and tender nature of this relationship, because it always begins to grow new extensions that test your inner resolve and really gauge how open you are to consistent evolution. So ultimately, it's not a journey for the faint of heart, but you need to understand, if you've been experiencing this dynamic, that you are ready for it. If you experienced the first page of this story, you can't close that book and pretend that it never existed. You must desire within yourself to read it and understand it fully, to understand the larger universal context, and even get into the point of a transpersonal evolutionary path where you seek beyond yourself to understand the deeper why. Of why are we here experiencing this kind of a divine relationship? Is it really just for us to learn our individual lessons? Or perhaps this is the universe using us to raise the frequency on planet Earth. We're stewards of consciousness, and in the context of such a powerful divine union, it can be said that our optimal impact would be in the context of that relationship, but not necessarily relying on it to be of service to the Divine One. Our goal is to simply understand that choosing connection to our own cosmic source means choosing to not abandon ourselves along the way, and not to see love as this preferential, conditional, transactional tool to meet our own needs. To love requires courage. It requires openness, honesty, and an understanding that even feeling those emotional depths is a prerequisite. Because unless you're willing to feel fully and to be all that you are, you're simply going to trap yourself in this smoke and mirrors reality, which eventually will cause the twin flame relationship to slip out of your fingers like smoke that you might be feeding yourself to avoid the truly integrated state of being. It's time for us to understand that if we're experiencing this, it's not just to experience the beautiful aspects of love, it's also to understand where we are hiding dark aspects that prevent love from existing and that destroy the delicacy of that pure dynamic, which can only exist if we likewise commit to the purest version of ourselves.